Welcome to NumiNest, where math becomes easy and clear. Today, we are learning one of the most important rules in mathematics. It is the order of operations. Another name is what we call PEMDAS. And PEMDAS is the math rule every student must know. And the reason being that when we solve math questions that has more than one operation, like addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division, we cannot just solve it that way. We solve it in the correct order. Now, that order is what we call PEMDAS. Now, PEMDAS tells us what to do first, what to do next, and what to do last. So it is the order we must follow to solve questions that has different operations. So think of it like traffic rules for numbers. Now, if cars drive without traffic rules, there will be confusion, there will be accident. So in the same way, if we solve math problems without order, there will be different answers or solution, and that will not give us the accurate way or the accurate answer to solve a problem. So which brings us to PEMDAS. So let's look at what it actually means. So it is an acronym that tells you the exact sequence to solve a math problem as seen in the screen. So we have the first one, P, to stand for parentheses, which could mean things like brackets. So when we talk about parentheses, we talk about brackets. And what it's trying to tell you in essence is that you must solve whatever you have inside the parentheses first. After which we move to the next one, which is exponent. And when we talk about exponent, we talk about powers, we talk about roots, talk about something like 3 square, we talk about something like 4 to the power of 3. We talk about roots as well, root of 25. So that's what we talk about when we look at exponents. And then the next thing we look at is multiplication, division, addition, and the last one is subtraction. So which means that PEMDAS means parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So whenever we talk about PEMDAS, we talk about this exactly. So let's look at a question. Okay, let's look at a question. This question, and this question emphasizes the importance of knowing PEMDAS. So let's look at the first one. Now, left-hand side, we can see a student solving it from left to right, but ignoring the others. And then the first thing they did was add these two values, and then they came up with 14 as their answer, and that is wrong. So in this case, we apply PEMDAS, and the first thing we should do is multiplication first. So, and that's why if you look at the right-hand side, which is this, you would see that the first thing we did was multiply these two, and we have 8. And then 8 plus 3 would give us 11. That's how we got 11 in this case. All right, so another important thing to note in PEMDAS is that multiplication and division have equal priority. They are equal in rank. That's what we're trying to say. And the same thing goes for addition and subtraction. So in essence, what are we trying to say? So if I have a question, for instance, I have it to be 10 and divided by 2 times 5. Now, if we look at PEMDAS, we would see that multiplication comes before division. But because they have the same priority, we would solve this from left to right. And doing that means that we'll look at these first two. And if we look at this first two, we'll have 10 divided by 2, and that should give us 5. And then we multiply 5 times 5, which gives us 25. So our answer here becomes 25. So this is what we are trying to talk about. That if we have something like this, and you have multiplication and division, that you should note that the division and multiplication have the same priority. So let's look at another question briefly. So let's say we have 10, yes, plus 2 divided by 2 times 4. Now let's apply our PEMDAS the same way. So in the same way, we'll solve from left to right. And solving from left to right, you would see that the division here as well comes first before multiplication. So that's the first thing we will do. Remember, in PEMDAS, we'll look at multiplication, division, addition, and then subtraction. So let's look at this. So which means this would give us 10 And then if we divide this should give us 1. We'll have 1 and then times 4. And then what's the next thing we would do? The next thing we would do is we'll multiply this. Remember our PEMDAS. And that means we'll have 10 plus 4. And this should give us 14. So this is a very important thing to note out that gets most students confused while solving operations like this. They have the same priority as for multiplication and division. And the same thing goes for addition and subtraction. They also have the same priority. Now, what it means in essence is that if I have, okay, let's look at a question as well. Let's say we have 10 minus 2 plus 5. Remember, I would solve from left to right. And if I do that, I would do this first of all, these two. And even though I know that subtraction was meant to be the last thing in our PEMDAS, but because they have the same priority, and I'll be solving from left to right. So that's why I would have to take away 2 from 10 first, and that will give me 8, and then plus 5. And then I'll have my answer, and this should give me 13. So that is how we do it in PEMDAS. Follow the instructions, and then follow the order, the way it should be. Remember, PEMDAS tells you 3 important things to do. It tells you what to do first. It tells you the next thing to do, and it tells you the last thing to do. So once you follow that order, you should be good to go. All right, so let's look at some questions. Let's look at some questions and let's do it together. So let's look at the first question. The first question says we have 2 plus 5 times, okay, 5 minus 3, which is in a bracket, okay? So let's look at it. Remember the first thing in PEMDAS. So we'll look at what we have in the bracket first of all. And if we look at that, it means we have 6 plus 2. And then if you look at everything we have in the bracket, we should have what? 5 minus 3, which is 2. And now we have this. Now, since we have this now, the next thing we'll do is we'll look at our PEMDAS as well. And we'll see that we have multiplication. So we'll multiply these 2. And this will give us 6 plus 2 times 2 should give us 4. And if we add this, we would have 10 as our final answer. So that is for question 1. Now let's look at question 2. Question 2, we will do the same thing. Let's simplify everything we have in the bracket first. And that means we'll have 8 minus 3, and that should give us 5. And remember, we have a square outside divided by 5. And then what's the next thing we'll do? We'll do 5 to the power of 2. And 5 to the power of 2 is the same thing as multiplying 5 2 times. It's the same thing as saying 5 times 5. So let's do that, and that will give us 25 divided by 5. And 25 divided by 5 should give us 5 as our answer. So, and then we have the final question, which I want you to try it out, and I would still solve it in the next video if you struggle with it. So do well to drop a comment in the comment section, and I would reply you. So that's it for this section. We'll also look at more things to know on that PEMDAS. So I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to comment, share, and subscribe.